Item 33, Fire Item 33, please note that action item number 3 should read, approve the removal of CAL FIRE staffing at Station 96 in the City of Livingston, effective June 30th, 2024, and redirect staff to alternate locations. Stations 92 in Balico, 91 in Delhi, and 95 in Hilmar will cover the service areas.
Go ahead, sir.
Chair, Board, County Council, CEO Mendez. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Pimentel. I'm the Assistant Fire Chief for Merced County Fire Department, CAL FIRE, here representing Chief Van Lobensel's. Today we talk about our services provided in the county and how it relates to our current staffing model. Historically, we talk about the volunteer paid call firefighter that has been used years past. I can say that I'm very familiar with this because actually in 1996, as I graduated from Atwater High School, I was one of those paid call firefighters. I was a joint between Atwater City and Merced County, and actually if that wasn't a program that was in this community, I probably wouldn't be here in front of you today. So definitely think a true asset for the county. But moving forward, as we talk, it's been really hard for that to be an adequate amount of staffing for our communities throughout the county. The reasoning is, a lot of the reasoning is that these individuals do have other lives outside of the department. They also have a high regards to training that they have to keep up on yearly, and it really takes a lot of their time. So when we look at moving forward, is trying to make sure that we can still have an adequate service and work through these things. We have currently about 146 volunteers on staff right now. And as of last year, we responded to several calls throughout the county, and our volunteer response was about 31%. As you all know, though, that 31% is definitely huge asset for us, and we appreciate every bit of help that we can get. But again, the fire department has to respond to 100% of the calls throughout the county. As you look at increased staffing for our county fire departments, you realize that there's improved response, you improved training, enhancing the fire prevention efforts, increasing the capacity to handle growth in the communities as they grow through, and then obviously that borns mutual or morale for the retaining those individuals that are working here. The individuals, like I said, is having them being able to have somebody to rely on. As much as the public safety goes, you've heard from the Sheriff's Department, we've heard of other departments throughout the county, and realizing that the things have changed. We've tend to continue to respond to these calls, and having one individual stepping off of a fire truck to provide any type of aid has been inadequate. So again, as I reference back, is those calls back in the county where we had those PCFs, those farmers, the communities, it was great to have them there to respond with us. But again, the requirements that they have to go through to get to these abilities to respond is overwhelming, to say the least. As we move here, I'll be providing you some proposals for objectives that we can do, and we'll talk about increasing the staffing levels at facilities, meeting the demand of critical responsibilities and associated with fire protection services, and then obviously trying to enhance our public safety and employee safety. I want to reference this. It may be different. It may be something that was not familiar to us as we've been doing business for several years, but it is a change that will actually put both the public at thoughts and also our employees working in those facilities. This may cause some additional funding for us, and the necessary to ensure that the safety and well-being of our community members, and then investing in the resources to meet the growing demand of the communities. The fire department serves over just under 3,000 residents. Over the past 10 years, we average per year about 11,950 calls. And to say the least, those calls are continually increasing annually. As you look at our chart here, as you can see all the way back, we started the last 10 years in 2014, and you do definitely see an increase. Looking at the 2023, there is a reduction in those calls, but I would refrain that to the issues that we were dealing with, the floods. A lot of those calls and people were dealing with a lot of those issues, and honestly, not that it took away from the fire department and their need to respond or provide a service, but I think people were worried about taking care of some other things and not getting into so much of an issue. So, but it is, like I said, if you look at those years, it definitely is increasing, and I don't think it's going to stop. Just to bring into light, too, is we have Los Banos City, Gustine City, and Livingston City. As the responses are through there, we do provide those incorporated cities with a service of fire protection from the county. Some of those cities have stay level, but they do fluctuate and obviously cause some issues for us for response, or at least continue to provide our services. With this, I also would like to say that I do, myself and the executive staff, along with CEO Mendez, the city managers have been very forthcoming. We've had several discussions and sitting down and working with them, and I want to say that we will continue to work with them moving forward. They have been open-eared and listening as we move forward. I've been here for 3 years in my current capacity, and I think the opportunities of working with these city managers has been excellent. I think as we move forward, this will just help us get to a place where we need to be. So our current staffing levels is we have 3 out of the 19 stations that are only 1-0 staffed. Again, as we look at this, 1-0 staffing is not an accepted staffing level for fire facilities. CAL FIRE last year had issued a memo that said that they will no longer support agreements that has personnel working 1-0 staff stations anymore. We are the last county in the state to have 1-0 staff personnel at their facilities, and they basically gave us a deadline of November 1st to meet this there. We are bringing this to your attention because we do work on our agreements about this time for the next fiscal year. So we definitely want to make sure that we are kind of meeting that requirement moving forward, or at least have some plan that we can present. Myself and Chief Van Lovenself will present to the state on how we project us working better and getting to that 2-0 staffing level. Again, it was these individuals are working 24/7. Their current staffing model is a 72-hour work week. So they'll come in, be in there for 3 days, respond to various calls, and again, being by themselves is an inadequate a means of doing service. And then if you look at their standards that they talk about, is that in general, is you got 2-0 staffing. For some people that don't know, that means 2 people at a single facility, 24/7, 365. As you look at 24/7, 365, you also need to provide a relief pool. With 3 days on duty, there's still another 4 other days of service that needs to be provided. So that's where you get the 3-0 factor that provides for those individuals relief, vacation, and other types of trainings and stuff like that to provide that back coverage. Our situation across the 17 stations, if you decide not to do any action today, there will be an increased staffing need of 27 positions. This 27 positions would fulfill all 19 stations, 2-0 staffing, 3-0 factor, and that would come at a county cost of $6,900,000 estimated. As we talk about alternatives, this would be your first alternative to consider. Is we go back and talk about a consolidation effective July 1 in 2024 of the Cressy Fire Station, Station 64, and Station 92, Balico. What we do is consider having Station 92 continue the staffing and have Station 64 become a volunteer station, solely volunteer station. This would allow for PCFs to continue functioning there. We would live apparatus, continue their training, and be able to have the opportunity for them to respond to those location as needed when they are there. And then as we look forward is we look at the elimination of Station 85. This would be effective at the end of our contract with the UC of October 1, 2024. This would help redirect staff, the resources, and maintain essential firefighting and emergency response services, enhance operational efficiency and cost effectiveness. And when I say operational efficiency, is again, just to give in light, is when you have one person coming to a fire on a fire truck, they have to wait for that other piece of apparatus to show up so that you can at least have another person to help you. A national standard is 2 in, 2 out. And if you look at that, as we were before, because remember, I came up in this department and I've spent most of my career here in Merced County, and to look at, I needed 4 engines to show up, and obviously the PCFs and Cade Hall firefighters to show up in order for me to actually make an entry into a residential structure fire. We always used to make it a comment is, if it's a rescue, it don't matter. We're going to go in there and protect and save somebody's life. But if you look at that, if talking about that operation efficiency, now you have 2 people showing up on a fire truck. Now you can start doing some work with those 2 individuals, trained individuals, and try to work on the situation and mitigating the incident at hand. And I know I'm talking about fires and structure fires, but even the medical is definitely a big issue. Probably about 85-90% of our calls are medical responses, and those take on the individuals of going in there, dealing with the environments that we're not peace officers. We don't secure the scene. We have to get in there and try to provide aid, and being one person by themselves to do CPR becomes really encumbersome on that individual. We have got new equipment and stuff that can help them perform those exercises, but again, it is really unsafe for my firefighters to go in there by themselves to provide an aid to the community. But this alternative would leave us with 19 stations requiring 102 personnel. We currently sit at about 87 positions, and we would need another 15. Your net county cost would be $3.8 million, which would be the overall reduction of $3.1 million of the original $6.9. As we move on to alternative B, again, to consider the consolidation of Cressy and Belico would continue, and then we would consider consolidating the Station 76, which is Dos Palos City, to Station 75 at the Dos Palos Y Station. To give some preferences too, is these consolidations are within 4 miles, these stations are within 4 miles of each other, roughly. As you start looking at that is, we try to be more efficient. I think back in the day, CAL FIRE has been in agreement since 1988 with the county, and we've always done more with less, right? So as you look at we have new equipment, we have higher trained individuals, we can get to calls quicker. I think back in the old days when they used to have a station in every community is a thing that needs to be changed as the county moves forward. I think that with the apparatuses that we have now, we are able to respond quickly and get to some of those areas that they weren't familiar with back in the day. With those 2 consolidations, again, Cressy and Belico, Station 76 and Station 75, we would still be providing services to the city of Dos Palos, just be from another location. Again, talking about working with those cities, we have had discussions and how we can continue to provide service moving forward. And that's not the greatest option, but it is an opportunity for us to continue providing them services as we move forward. And then the elimination of 85 would still be considered, again, at the effective date of the completion of the UC's agreement. Station 96, Livingston City as well, that would be effective of July 1. We have noticed that there's a lot of calls in those areas, but we do have 3 stations that surround that area, and again, would be considered to continue responding into those areas and providing that service for those individuals in that community moving forward. Again, to reference that we will continue. I think CEO Mendez has stressed it many times to myself with Marcy Barbera, which is which is the assistant CEO that I work with here in the county, has worked very hard and very diligent with these cities, and hopefully we'll be able to come to a resolve moving forward. Again, we're efficiency and coverage while addressing the budget constraints are kind of the ideas of this is we still want to still provide a service to those areas, but would be coming from an outside area. Those are just some ways of continuing, but restructuring our whole layout as the county moves forward. This detail, alternative B, would be 15 positions, 15 stations requiring 90 personnel. Our current 87 positions. The positions needed are 3. And this would get us to the 2.0 staffing, 3.0 factor. $6.14 million would be our cost savings from the original $6.9 million. The net county cost would be $760,000. That's for the 3 positions that we're referring to. And then just a quick shot of both alternatives and the positions and requirements for those. And then just a summary of those alternative positions considered. Staffing requirements, we need to meet those by that November date. That way that we can kind of show the state what we're doing moving forward to make sure that our staff are no longer working by themselves. We will continue providing service to 19 stations. Again, that would be that $6.9 million, 27 new positions, and then alternative. Considering the following alternative would be just a 15 positions would be A, and that would reduce the facilities by 2, and we would need the 15 bodies at $3.8 million. And then obviously the ultimate one would be that alternative B, and that would be the 2 consolidations and the 2 eliminations of the facilities. And giving would be probably the best option for the county and their cost efficiency and effective choices as moving forward. Like I said, working through this process has been a long, drawn-out process. We've been working diligently with the board and CEO Mendez on trying to figure out what the best options could be and how we can look moving forward. But these considerations would be here for your opinion today, and if I'm here for any other questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by the board? Supervisor Pedrosa.
Thank you. I know that you had said on one of the slides, Station 85 could remain functional if the staffing costs are assumed by the university. What does the university currently pay right now?
The current agreement that we are in with them right now for 9 months is $400,000.
Okay, and so what was the ask of the UC?
We wanted to split the cost, and we said $1 million for half the station.
For half the station?
That was our last agreement discussions, yes.
Okay.
For annual costs, those would be for a full year.
And I'll save the rest of my comments for later. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to open up to the public. Oh, Supervisor McDaniel, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief, for that presentation. Kind of feeding off of what he just said. So the UC was going to enter into the agreement, but yet they never did. Is that still an ongoing discussion, and looking to the future with the annexation of the city of Merced, what will that agreement do with the annexation and through that process?
My vast 3 years experience working through this process. Again, I'm not the negotiator for the county. I'm just kind of SME to let them know what kind of services we can provide. But my familiarization through that process is we have provided options for them to continue services as would be, with the opportunity to get out of the agreement if the city was to assume responsibility for those areas. And as recent discussions, we look forward, myself and Chief Van Lobensos look forward to working with the city, depending on your guys, the board's decision is to determine how we can kind of coexist and help each other out, being that there's some county islands within there, and that northern portion of Merced is trying to figure out some type of aid. We currently do an automatic aid with Atwater City,
Right.
and we're kind of thinking of those avenues moving forward, having those discussions with them. But again, going back to the original question with the UC, is trying to allow them the opportunity to be flexible and still provide them a service to their area that's in need.
Correct. And so I also said on LAFCO, and so those are continuous discussions that we have at our LAFCO meetings about that annexation. So I know it's moving forward faster than we think, really. So I think that's something we need to keep in our conversations with the UC. And you had mentioned Atwater, which is my district, and I know this study was done in 2016, and this has actually been going on since 2017 when it was first presented to the board, which I had a station closed in my district that I was optimally opposed of, but I got to say that the study was correct. And with that automatic aid that we have with the city of Atwater, we actually, in my neighborhood, get a call from Winton, and it's the first one on the scene with a fire, which was right across the street from my house, and they were there within minutes. So even though I was optimally opposed, I can say that that study was correct, and we actually have better service now today with that station closed out of Castle. Thank you.
No further comments before I open up to the board? Go. Supervisor Burrow.
Yeah, I have one question. I thought maybe one of my colleagues would ask it, but what the McKee station? What's the number of calls or the percentage of calls out of that station that go to the UC versus the rest of the area?
33% for that one station. That does not take into consideration all of the other units that respond. That is just that single station. We have, I tend to believe that everybody thinks that one station is very viable and you'll see a fire truck show up and everybody's happy. But the honesty, it takes more than just one piece of apparatus to show up and two people. Like I said, it is, as we start moving, it's more about how many pieces of apparatus do we get there in order to meet the state standard, or at least the standard of having an adequate amount of personnel at scene to mitigate those incidents.
Okay. Supervisor Pedrosa.
Thank you. So, for example, and I knew the answer, but I should have asked the question. But for example, when they had the latest big incident out there with the Hazmat incident, how many engines were called out there to take care of that?
With assistance from the state and Merced City, I think there was a neighborhood about 4 or 5 engines out there, and our Hazmat unit, and several chief officers, and also, to come to think of it, Madera even sent some of their Hazmat staff. Again, that goes back to the relationships that we have with the state. When you have CAL FIRE as a part of your department, it's a phone call away. It's a call that I would get to make to Chief Van Lobensel's that allows for state resources to come in on a moment's notice. So when that incident occurred, it was a phone call, and people came from the state side, from Madera side, and also the city of Merced side. So again, that's cooperative fire protection at its best, and that was a lot of resources there for what we provide.
Okay. All right. This agenda item has 5 different items, and then so after the public comment, we'll be voting manually separately, so for consideration. So I will now open public comment on fire item 33.